Thank you everybody for taking your Saturday morning off and learning about how to arrange a play date. The topic that we're going to talk about today is the importance of play date. How do you arrange an effective play date? What are the crowd pleasers? And what happens if the play date doesn't go the way you've arranged it? So I'm going to take each of these topics one by one in detail. So let's talk about first the importance of play dates. Now, if you arrange a play date, if it's an outcome-based play date, you would realize that the play dates are a very important tool in encouraging the creativity and imagination of your child. It also encourages the problem-solving abilities of your child. And moreover, if you arrange an outcome-based play date, it also strengthens the social competence and it also helps in the self-regulation and self-confidence of your child. Now, once when you see a live workshop, you would understand that how these areas are beautifully covered, and knowingly or unknowingly, you are actually promoting all these areas of emotional development or the social development. Also, a recent study which was done in Germany and which is published in the Child Psychology Journal, which says that an effective play date is very critical for the emotional health of your child, and it also helps to reduce the anxiety and the stress that the child would go through when they start reception. I know a lot of people, when they go to reception, even year 1 and year 2, they're not able to cope up with the stress. The reason being is they're not socially competent. They're not able to express themselves in a social environment. They may be quite good at home or in a known environment, but the fact is they would not have that for the rest of their life. They will have to interact with different people. They'll have a different environment that they've got to cope up by themselves. So the reason why you have to arrange an effective play date from 8 months is all you're doing is you're encouraging the child to develop these social competences. So what are the rules of engagement? The rules of engagement, first and the most important, is to keep the numbers low. You're not in a rat race, or you're not in a race to prove anything to anybody. So that's the reason, keep the numbers low. When I say low, do not cross anything more than 4 or 5. Unless and until you are very confident in arranging a play date for 8, 10 or 15. Otherwise, just arrange it for 4 or maximum 5. That's the first rule, to keep the numbers low. Second and the most important rule is only drop-offs with a big smile. The whole reason why you're arranging the play date is for the social independence of your child. And if you're going to be there for the whole play date, that's of no use. You're actually wasting your time. So that's the reason, if you take your child for a play date, keep talking to the child the night before, saying that we're going to go tomorrow to this person's house. There's a play date over there. There'll be a lot of things that they will arrange it, and you're going to be over there, and mommy is going to go and get some strawberries or oranges or whatever the child likes. So encourage it that way. Thirdly, outcome-based play date. Outcome-based play date means you arrange the play date in such a way that by the end of the play date, the outcome should be achieved. Now, that outcome could be anything. It could be either problem-solving ability of the child, it could be public speaking, it could be social competence, it could be puzzles, or it could be imaginations, anything. But the whole point of the play date should be an outcome-based play date. The next one is, don't overstay. Very important. If you're going to drop your child for 1.5 hours or 2 hours, do not overstay. It's supposed to start at the right time and finish at the right time. So if you say your guess that the play date is from 10 to 12, reach that at 9:55 and finish off by 11:55. Do not enter into the play date scenario, or do not enter into the play date assuming it's perfectly fine. It's an informal structure. It's perfectly all right. It's an informal structure. But the only thing is, if your child comes half an hour late, it's actually disturbing the flow of other kids as well. Probably they must be doing something like a role play, or they must be doing probably puzzles, and that's going to completely disturb their flow. So that's the reason. Be considerate, be on time, keep the numbers low, only drop off with a big smile, do not overstay, and have an outcome-based play date. Now, arranging a play date in 3 different scenarios. There are 3 different scenarios in which you arrange a play date. The first one is known environment and with known people. Now, when you say known people and known environment, which means a friend's house that you often visit, probably once in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's a known people in known environment. The second one is known people in unknown environment or a different environment. Now, what does that mean? That means, again, it means a friend's house, that you haven't often visited, probably once in 6 months or a year. So it's still unknown people, but a different environment. Now the third one is a bit tricky. It is unknown people in unknown environment. Now when I say unknown people, it doesn't mean that the person you don't know. It means that the person you know, but your child doesn't know. So that's unknown people for the child. And it's unknown environment. It doesn't mean unknown environment that you don't know, the unknown environment for the child. So as I said, there are only three different scenarios of play date. Known people, known environment, known people in different environment, unknown people in unknown environment for the child. Now, how to arrange an effective outcome-based play date? There are 4 types of play dates that you can arrange. The first one could be a crafty play date, when you've arranged your living room with different crafts. So that could be a craft-oriented play date. The second one could be a sensory play date. You've realized that you want to have a messy play date, or you want to have a dry play date, or something which is sensorial. It could be a sensory play date. The third one could be food theme-based play date. This is very important for somebody who is a fussy eater. So for example, you could have a pretend play area where you could have food, and probably somebody could be acting like a customer and somebody who's selling. And you can have different corners of the living room with different kinds of food. So that's a food theme-based play date. And the fourth one could be a combination of all these ones, which we normally call it as an active play date, wherein you've got one corner with the crafts, the other corner with sensorial, the other corner with food, the other corner with free play, anything, but something that's got a combination of all of them. Now, I leave this to the host to decide what kind of play dates they want to have. But a recommendation would be, an ideal situation would be a combination of all of these, because you don't know what that particular day the child would be interested in. So it's very necessary to arrange the play date, taking into account the layout of your living room and having different corners with different activities. Second important thing when you arrange a play date is arrange the appropriate age group play date. Do not arrange a play date with somebody who's a baby, probably 8 months, to somebody who's 3 years or probably 4 years. That's not a play date. It's an acquaintance date. They're just knowing each other. That's different from play date. An outcome-based play date would be something that you're arranging with a proper age group. So if your child is probably 3 years, arrange a play date from 3 to 4 or 5 years of age group. If your child is a baby, probably arrange a play date with the babies from 8 months to probably 12 or 13 or 15 months. Think through the play dates. Very important. A play date is something that you should be thinking through, that how you're going to arrange the play date for an hour or 2 hours. Majority of the times when you arrange a play date, and a couple of play dates that I've seen, the host would be spending a lot of time in cooking and spending probably 2 or 3 hours in making the best food and trying to show off their culinary skills. But that's not the point. The point is you're arranging a play date. The emphasis should be on arranging the play date and just not arranging the food. Keep the food simple. Probably just have crackers, have some fresh fruit, have some carrots, have cucumber. Now that's what the food should be. Let them arrange the food themselves. So for example, if you're having a food-based, theme-based, food-oriented play date, have like a pretend play area, which you would see now in the workshop. We have a pretend play area where there'll be one person pretending as a shopkeeper and the other one, making different kinds of food. Probably apple and peanut butter delight or something like that. So as I said, think through the play dates, the layout of your living room. What are you going to put at the different corners? How the child is going to benefit. The most important thing after that is the importance of music. Do not underestimate the importance of a music in a play date. Think of it that way. Imagine you come to somebody else's house, right? You've got, from the child's perspective, you've no idea what the host has arranged. You're coming in a new environment. And imagine if there is no music on. It would be very daunting for the child, because then the child is thinking, oh my Lord, where am I? But on the other hand, if you have a music playing, that's like an icebreaker for the child. The child is thinking, oh, I know something, some of the nursery rhymes, I know I can relate to that. So in their mind, they're thinking that, okay, there's something which is going to be fun. There's something that I'm really going to enjoy by the end of it. So that's the reason, importance of music. As soon as the time for the play date starts, put on the music, and again, age appropriate music. If you're having for babies, have a lot of baby music. If you're having for 3 to 5, have the other kind of music, not just nursery rhymes, because they love other kind of music as well. Always be warm. That's the most important thing, which is when you arrange a play date, is always be warm, and if possible, dress up in the theme characters. Now think about it that way. You have a child coming in an unknown environment, and if you are dressed up not in the character, or if you're not, when I say dress up in the character, is either you can physically dress up in the character, as in like a monster character or a Peppa Pig character or Elsa or whatever, or internalize the concept or at least pretend like the character. Very important, because kids can understand these things quite easily. So if you're going to be like a parent over there, then obviously they're not going to enjoy the play date at all. Your whole point of arranging the play date is for the social competence, for the self-esteem, for the confidence, for the neurological development, for the social competence. These things you can achieve it only when you are dressed up, either internalizing the concept of the play date yourself or dressing up. Sorry about that. Sorry. How to host a perfect play date. Now, as I said, when you arrange a play date, the first and the most important thing is start with the music warm-up. When we do the live workshop, you would see that once when you have the kids coming in, have a music like a warm-up. Listen to your music, da da da, tap your legs, tap your legs, something like that. So imagine when the child is entering into the play date, they're already enthusiastic. They're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have a lot of fun. So use music as the starting point for starting your play date. The second one is crowd pleasers. Now, these are few things that you cannot go wrong when you arrange a play date. And these are the things that you would anyways have it in your house. So for example, you're arranging a play date, have different corners of the living room. Whatever furniture you've got, just put it by the side. Have different corners arranged for the play date. So for example, you've got a corner for pop-up tent, a corner for role play areas, a corner for messy play, a corner for water play. If at all you've got a garden, you can keep some water play over there. If at all you haven't, you can still have a water play. Probably not too much of water, but just a little bit of water for just to understand, like a sensory ball or something else. You can have craft if you're having older kids. You can have origami if you're having play dates for 5 and above. You can also have some empty boxes. Do not underestimate the importance of an empty box to a child. An empty box is like a Pandora of ideas for the child. They could do anything out of it. They can drive a car. They would pretend as if they are making a guitar out of it. They could pretend as if they are making probably a vehicle or a car or anything out of it. So do not underestimate the power of an empty box. Always use 1 or 2 empty boxes and just give it to the child and see what the child comes out with. And by the end of the play date, it's not comparing one child to the other child. It is how you can actually use the intelligence of the child to encourage other kids as well. That should be the whole aspect of play date. Again, as I said, if you want to, if you're giving an empty box, you could have some round pillows, and they could pretend as if they're the drivers, and they could pretend like a pretend play of probably pizza drivers or anything like that, or probably they're driving somebody to the school or driving somebody so wherever they want to go. So there's endless possibilities of hosting a perfect play date. What we are again going to talk about now is what happens if the child is uncontrollable. Normally, if you arrange a play date and if you talk to the child well before the play date, and if the child is aware that when they come to the play date, they're going to see some of these things, they're starting to think about that once when they're walking down with you, that yes, I'm going to go to the play date, I'm going to have sensory balls, or I'm going to have a tent or whatever it is. And once when they see that, they think, oh, it's going to be fun. But imagine if it's uncontrollable and there's no way you can control the child. 2 things it could be. Either you can do music and freezing tricks. So for example, you're playing some music and say, all right, let's all pretend that we're frozen now. Like that. Or something like a freezing trick. 1, 2, 3, freeze. So freezing tricks. Normally it works with uncontrollable kids. The second could be, do not be afraid to use the timeouts. Obviously take the permission of the parent. Is it okay for me to use timeout if the child doesn't behave well? And as a guest, you should be okay with timeouts, because timeouts are good for the child to understand that there are things that they cannot do in a social environment. For example, they cannot go and throw the remote on the TV or something like that. This is not acceptable at all. Anyways, it's the matter of the discipline. So as I said, use timeouts if you and the guest are okay with the timeouts. But again, talk to the guest before that. Engage the crowd in play treats. Now, when I say play treats, which means that if you've got older kids, assuming you've got kids from 3 to